Aliens left a baby to die in a sack. Then a human heard a tiny voice whisper, "Daddy!" The acrid stench of the alien wasteland burned Max Thornton's nostrils as he trudged through the desolate landscape. His worn khaki jacket, patched in a dozen places but still reliable, flapped against his muscular frame in the harsh wind that swept across the barren plains. The towering walls of Nyx Citadel loomed ahead, a monument to the Valkyrie Empire's cold efficiency and brutal dominance. Max adjusted his tactical gloves and checked his chrono. 2 hours until his contact arrived. Plenty of time to scout the perimeter and ensure his latest smuggling run went smoothly. The pay was good, enough to keep his ship fueled and his stomach full for a few months. That's all that mattered in this corner of the galaxy. "Just another day in paradise," he muttered, his deep voice carried away by the wind. The translator unit clipped to his chest suddenly flashed red, its small screen illuminating with an unexpected message. Someone said, "Daddy, near the trash at the gate." Max snorted. "Yeah, right. Piece of junk." He tapped the device with his finger, assuming it had malfunctioned again. The damn thing had cost him 3 months' worth of credits, and it still glitched out at the worst times. But something made him pause. An uneasy feeling crept up his spine, the kind of instinct that had kept him alive through a decade of dangerous runs across hostile territories. Max glanced toward the enormous metal gates of the Citadel, where piles of discarded materials formed small mountains of trash. "Ah, hell," he grumbled, changing course. 5 minutes, that's all I'm giving this wild goose chase? As he approached the nearest trash heap, the translator flashed again. "Daddy, help!" Max's heart rate quickened despite himself. He began shifting through the refuse, pushing aside broken machinery and strange alien artifacts. Nothing. Then he spotted it, a battered sack, partially hidden beneath a twisted piece of metal. It moved slightly. "What the?" Max pulled the sack free and carefully loosened the binding at its top. Wide, luminous eyes stared back at him, the color of polished sapphires. A tiny humanoid infant with sky-blue porcelain skin blinked up at him, her miniature fingers clutching desperately at the edge of the fabric. A small, glowing tag hung from her chest, bearing a single word in human language. "Daddy?" "Holy shit," Max whispered, his gruff exterior cracking at the sight of the abandoned child. The infant couldn't have been more than a few months old by human standards, though who knew how alien development worked? The baby's lips trembled and a soft sound escaped. His translator flashed, "Daddy found me." Something stirred in Max's chest, a feeling he'd buried long ago when he'd chosen this life of solitude and survival. Compassion, tenderness, protectiveness. "Who would leave you out here?" he asked softly, gently lifting the infant from the sack. She weighed almost nothing in his large hands. "What kind of monsters?" The baby curled against his chest, seeking warmth. Her tiny fingers wrapped around one of his, and Max felt something inside him shift irrevocably. "Well, kid," he said, his voice rough with emotion he refused to acknowledge. "Looks like you're stuck with me for now." He carefully tucked the infant inside his jacket, creating a makeshift sling that kept her warm and secure against his chest. The smuggling run would have to wait. He had more important matters to attend to now. As Max turned away from the Citadel walls, he caught sight of a patrol of Valkyrie guards in the distance, their sleek armor glinting in the dim light of the setting sun. He ducked behind a rusted hulk of machinery, holding his breath as the infant squirmed against him. "Oh, shh," he whispered, gently patting her back. "We need to be quiet now." To his surprise, the baby immediately stilled, as if understanding the danger. Her eyes, impossibly intelligent, locked with his. Max felt a strange connection form between them, something he couldn't explain but couldn't deny either. This child needed him, and perhaps, though he'd never admit it aloud, he needed her too. "All right, little one," he murmured as the patrol passed by without noticing them. "Let's get you somewhere safe. I know a doctor who doesn't ask questions." As Max made his way back across the wasteland toward his hidden ship, the weight of the tiny life against his chest felt both terrifying and right. He had no idea what he was getting himself into, but one thing was certain: his life would never be the same again. The infant made a soft, cooing sound, and his translator flashed once more. "Safe now." With Daddy. Max swallowed hard. "I'm not your daddy, kid," he said gruffly. But even as the words left his mouth, he knew they might not be true for much longer. Max had barely made it halfway back to his ship when a familiar silhouette appeared on the horizon, the lanky figure of Tarek Voss. His Centaurian contact was unmistakable even at a distance, all four arms moving in that characteristic nervous pattern as he scanned the wasteland. "Damn it," Max muttered, instinctively tightening his jacket around the infant. "You're early." The baby stirred against his chest, making a soft gurgling sound. Max gently patted her through the fabric, hoping she'd stay quiet. He couldn't avoid Tarek. The alien had already spotted him and was waving frantically. "Thornton!" Tarek called out as Max approached, his voice a peculiar mix of clicks and vowels. "You're late." "The shipment—" "I'm not late," Max interrupted, keeping his distance. "You're early." "We said sunset." Tarek's yellowish eyes narrowed, all four of his hands resting on his hips in a gesture of annoyance. "Plans changed. The Valkyrie patrols have doubled. We need to move now or—" He stopped abruptly, his gaze fixed on Max's jacket. "What is that movement?" Max cursed inwardly. "Nothing. Just picked up some tech that might be worth something." The infant chose that moment to let out a tiny, high-pitched sound. Max froze as Tarek's eyes widened in disbelief. "You have a child under your jacket," Tarek stated flatly, stepping closer. "A child. Have you lost your mind, Thornton?" "It's complicated," Max replied, taking a step back. "Look, I'll get your shipment to you tomorrow. Same price." Tarek's upper right hand shot out, grabbing Max's arm with surprising strength. "Show me." Reluctantly, Max opened his jacket just enough to reveal the blue-skinned infant, who blinked up at the Centaurian with curious eyes. Tarek inhaled sharply, all four of his hands now trembling. "By the void, that's a Lumidian child. Where did you get a Lumidian child?" "Found her abandoned near the Citadel gates," Max said, covering the baby again. "Someone left her to die." "Of course they did," Tarek hissed. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" The Lumidians are the Valkyrie's most prized servants. Their telepathic abilities make them invaluable. If they discover you've taken one— "She was in a trash heap," Max growled, his protective instincts flaring. "In a sack. Like garbage." Tarek ran his lower hands through the filaments that passed for his hair. "This changes everything. I should report you both." Max's hand instinctively moved to the blaster on his hip. That would be a mistake. The Centaurian's eyes darted to the weapon, then back to Max's face. A calculating look crossed his features. "Perhaps we can come to an arrangement." "I'm listening." "I need something from inside Nyx Citadel," Tarek said, his voice lowering. "A data crystal containing shipping manifests. My employer pays handsomely for such information." Max snorted. "You want me to break into the most secure Valkyrie facility in the sector? While carrying a baby?" "You need to disappear with that child," Tarek countered. "My contacts can provide new identities, transport to the outer colonies where the Valkyrie have no presence. But such services aren't cheap." The infant squirmed against Max's chest, and he felt a strange warmth spread through his mind, almost like a question. He wondered if this was the telepathy Tarek had mentioned. "How would I even get in?" Max asked, already knowing he was considering the impossible. Tarek's mouth stretched into what passed for a smile among his species. "The waste disposal systems. I have the access codes. You'd have 12 minutes between guard rotations." Max looked down at the tiny life pressed against him. If what Tarek said was true, they'd both need to vanish completely to have any chance at survival. "And if I refuse?" Tarek shrugged all four shoulders. "Then I alert the nearest patrol about a human kidnapping a Lumidian child." "Your choice, Thornton." The baby made another soft sound, and Max felt a sensation like a gentle touch against his consciousness. Trust, need, dependence. Whether it was his imagination or the child's telepathy, it solidified his resolve. "When?" he asked grimly. "Tonight, 3 hours from now. The night shift is less attentive." Tarek produced a small data chip from one of his many pockets. "The access codes and map? Memorize them, then destroy this." Max took the chip, his mind already racing through contingencies. "I'll need supplies for the baby." Tarek nodded. "I'll bring what I can to your ship." But Thornton, his voice dropped to a whisper, "If you're caught, I don't know you." "Wouldn't expect anything else," Max replied dryly. As Tarek slipped away across the wasteland, Max looked down at the infant, who was watching him with those impossibly intelligent eyes. "Well, kid," he sighed, "looks like we're breaking into an alien fortress tonight. Not exactly what I had planned for your first day with me." The baby's tiny hand emerged from the jacket to grasp his finger, and Max felt another wave of that strange mental warmth, something that felt remarkably like gratitude. "Don't thank me yet," he murmured, starting toward his ship. "We've got a long night ahead of us." The waste disposal entrance to Nyx Citadel smelled worse than Max had anticipated. He wrinkled his nose as he slipped through the narrow maintenance tunnel, the baby secured in a makeshift sling across his chest. Tarek had provided basic supplies, nutrient formula compatible with Lumidian physiology, a few soft claws, and a small medical kit, along with a stern warning not to get caught. "Easy for him to say," Max muttered, checking the holographic map projected from his wrist device. The data crystal was supposedly stored in a secure archive 3 levels up. The infant remained remarkably quiet, her luminous eyes taking in their surroundings with an awareness that seemed impossible for her age. Occasionally, Max felt that strange mental warmth, like she was trying to communicate. "Just hang tight, little one," he whispered. "We'll be out of here soon." He navigated through the dimly lit service corridors, avoiding the main hallways where security would be heaviest. The Citadel's interior was cold and sterile, all polished metal and harsh angles, devoid of any comfort or warmth. It reflected the Valkyrie themselves, efficient, ruthless, and utterly lacking in compassion. As Max approached the archive level, he heard footsteps echoing down the corridor ahead. He quickly ducked into a recessed doorway, pressing himself against the wall and holding his breath as a patrol of Valkyrie guards marched past, their scaled skin gleaming under the artificial lights. Once they passed, Max continued toward his objective, following Tarek's directions to a seemingly ordinary wall panel. He entered the access code, and the panel slid open to reveal a vast room filled with data storage units. "Now we just need to find the right crystal," he murmured, scanning the rows of glowing containers. The baby made a soft sound, and Max felt a gentle tug in his mind, like she was trying to direct his attention. He followed the sensation, moving deeper into the archive until he reached a section marked with Valkyrie symbols he couldn't read. "This one?" he asked softly, reaching for a crystal that seemed to pulse with a faint blue light. As his fingers closed around it, an alarm suddenly blared throughout the facility. Red warning lights flashed across the walls, and a computerized voice announced a security breach. "Perfect timing," Max growled, securing the crystal in his pocket. "Let's move, kid." He turned to leave but froze as a figure appeared in the doorway, a female Valkyrie in the distinctive armor of a security officer. Her scaled skin was a deep emerald green, and her amber eyes widened at the sight of him. Max reached for his blaster, but the Valkyrie raised her hands in a gesture of peace. "Wait," she said in accented but fluent human standard. "I'm not here to capture you." "Right," Max replied skeptically, keeping his hand near his weapon. "You just happened to find me during a security alert." "I triggered the alarm in a different sector," she explained quickly, to draw the other guards away. "My name is Neria. I'm with the Resistance." "Resistance?" Max's eyebrows shot up. "What resistance?" "Not all Valkyrie support the Empire's methods," Neria said, her voice low and urgent. "Some of us are fighting from within, but we need to move now. The diversion won't last long." The baby stirred against Max's chest, making a soft cooing sound. Neria's eyes widened further. "A Lumidian child," she breathed. "So the rumors were true." "What rumors?" Max demanded. "That one had escaped the program," Neria said, moving closer. "You don't know what you've stumbled into, human. That data crystal you're holding, it contains evidence of Project Starseed, which is the Empire's attempt to weaponize Lumidian telepathic abilities," she explained, checking the corridor nervously. "They've been experimenting on Lumidian children, trying to enhance their natural talents to create the perfect spies and assassins." Max felt a chill run down his spine as he looked down at the innocent face pressed against his chest. "And her?" "A failure by their standards," Neria said with disgust. "Her abilities developed differently than expected. Instead of being able to control minds, she can only communicate and connect with them. Useless for their purposes, so they discarded her. The baby's tiny hand emerged from the sling to grasp Max's finger, and he felt a wave of trust and fear mingled together in his mind. "How do I know I can trust you?" Max asked, and still wary. Naraya's lips curved in a bitter smile. "Because I'm the one who left her where you would find her." Max stared at her in shock. "You put her in that sack? By the trash?" "I couldn't take her myself. They monitor all Valkyrie leaving the Citadel," Nerya explained urgently. "But I knew humans sometimes scavenged near the gates. I hope someone with compassion would find her before—" She trailed off, unable to finish the thought. "Before what?" "Before they realized their mistake," Nerya said grimly. "That data crystal explains everything. The Lumidians they deem failures? They're actually the most powerful of all, just not in ways the Empire can weaponize. That child can form deep psychic bonds, share emotions and memories. With proper training, she could even link minds across vast distances." The sound of boots echoed from a nearby corridor. Nerya tensed. "We need to move. Now!" She gestured toward a different passage. "This way leads to a service exit. I can guide you out." Max hesitated only a moment before following. The baby made another soft sound, and he felt that mental warmth again. But this time, it seemed to extend toward Nerya as well, like a bridge forming between them. "She trusts you," Max said, surprised. Nerya's expression softened. "Lumidians can sense intentions. She knows I mean her no harm." She paused, looking at Max with newfound respect. "Just as she knows you'll protect her with your life. Humans are not what most Valkyrie believe them to be." "And what's that?" "Primitive, selfish." Nerya led him through a maze of corridors. "But I've observed your kind. Your capacity for compassion, for bonding with those unlike yourselves. It's remarkable." Max felt an unexpected warmth at her words. "Not all humans are saints." "No," Nerya agreed. "But you chose to save a child that wasn't even your species. That says something important about humanity." The service exit led them to a maintenance tunnel that ran beneath the Citadel's outer walls. Max followed Nerya through the dimly lit passage, the baby still secure against his chest. The alarm continued to blare distantly behind them. "We're almost clear," Nerya whispered, her emerald scales catching the faint light. "My diversion won't fool them much longer." As they hurried through the tunnel, Max activated his wrist device and scanned the data crystal. Holographic images flickered to life. Diagrams of Lumidian brain development, genetic modifications, and training protocols. The clinical detachment with which the Valkyrie documented their experiments made his stomach turn. "This is sick," he muttered. "The Empire views other species as resources to be exploited," Nerya said bitterly, "especially those with valuable abilities." The baby stirred against Max's chest, and he felt that now familiar mental warmth spread through him, but stronger this time, more focused. Images flashed in his mind. A sterile laboratory masked Valkyrie scientists, other Lumidian infants in transparent containers. "She's showing me memories," Max said, stunned. "How is that possible?" "She's just a baby." Nerya glanced back at him, her amber eyes widening. "The crystal explains this. She's what they call a Nexus Lumidian, an extremely rare subspecies. They mature mentally much faster than physically, and they can form permanent telepathic bonds with compatible minds." "Bonds? What kind of bonds?" "Deep connections that allow sharing of thoughts, emotions, even sensory experiences," Nerya explained as they reached a heavy metal door. "The Empire wanted to use them as living communication devices, but they discovered Nexus Lumidians only bond with those they choose. They can't be forced. That's why she was discarded." "And she's chosen me?" Max asked, looking down at the infant who gazed back with those impossibly intelligent eyes. "It appears so," Nerya said, entering a code into the door's security panel. "She called you Daddy through your translator, didn't she?" The bond was already forming. The door slid open, revealing the wasteland beyond. Max could see his ship in the distance, a welcome sight after the tension of the Citadel. "We need to hurry," he said. "My contact will be waiting." They moved quickly across the open ground, keeping to the shadows where possible. The baby remained quiet, as if understanding the need for stealth. Max found himself increasingly aware of her presence in his mind. A gentle, curious touch that somehow felt right, like she belonged there. As they approached the ship, Max spotted Tarek pacing nervously beside the landing gear. The Centaurian's agitated movements set off warning bells in Max's mind. "Something's wrong," he murmured to Neria. "He's too anxious." Neria tensed beside him. "I sense others nearby. We're not alone." Before Max could respond, the baby sent him a sharp burst of alarm, a mental warning that hit him with surprising force. In the same instant, he caught a glimpse of movement behind his ship. "Trap," he hissed, pulling Neria behind a rusted piece of machinery. "Tarek sold us out." As if on cue, a squad of elite Valkyrie soldiers in black armor emerged from hiding positions around the ship. Their commander, a tall male with blood-red scales, clasped Tarek's shoulder in what appeared to be gratitude. "That treacherous four-armed bastard," Max growled. "Commander Drex," Neria whispered, her voice tight with fear. "Head of Special Operations. If he's here personally, they want the child badly." Max's mind raced through options. None of them good. They were outnumbered and outgunned, with no clear path to the ship. "Any ideas?" he asked. Neria's eyes met his, and Max was struck by the intensity in them. Fear mixed with determination and something else, something warmer. "There's another way," she said. "My personal transport is hidden 2 kilometers east. It's smaller than your ship, but it can outrun standard Valkyrie vessels." "And Drex's vessel isn't standard, I'm guessing." "No," she admitted, "but it's our only chance." The baby made a soft sound, and Max felt her consciousness brush against his again, this time extending to include Neria as well, creating a 3-way connection that startled him with its intimacy. "She's linking us," Neria said, her voice filled with wonder. "I can feel your thoughts, your emotions." Max nodded, equally amazed. Through the connection, he sensed Neria's genuine concern for the child, her admiration for his protective instincts, and underneath it all, a growing attraction to him that mirrored his own unexpected feelings toward her. "This is what makes Nexus Lumidians so special," Neria continued, her scales flushing a deeper green that Max somehow knew indicated embarrassment. "They can create mental networks between compatible minds." "Compatible, huh?" Max couldn't help the small smile that formed despite their dangerous situation. "Is that what we are?" Neria's amber eyes met his, and the mental connection between them intensified, carrying currents of mutual attraction that needed no words. "We need to move," she said softly, breaking the moment. "Follow me and stay low." As they crept away from the ship, using the junkyard debris for cover, Max felt the bond with the child, and now with Neria, growing stronger. It was unlike anything he'd experienced before, a sense of connection that transcended physical boundaries, creating a shared awareness that felt both alien and strangely natural. Behind them, Commander Drex's voice boomed across the wasteland. "Find them! The Nexus child must be recovered at all costs." Max clutched the baby closer, feeling her fear through their connection. "It's okay," he whispered. "I won't let them take you." Through their shared bond, he felt the infant's absolute trust in him and realized with sudden clarity that he would die before breaking that trust. "This way," Neria urged, leading them deeper into the wasteland, away from his ship and toward an uncertain future that somehow they would face together. Night had fallen over the wasteland, but they couldn't risk using lights. Max navigated by memory and instinct, following Neria through the treacherous terrain. The baby remained alert in her sling, occasionally sending them mental warnings of unstable footing or sharp debris ahead. "She's getting stronger," Max whispered as they paused behind a massive hull fragment from some long-forgotten spacecraft. "Her telepathy, I can feel it growing." "Nexus Lumidians develop rapidly under stress," Neria explained, her amber eyes gleaming in the darkness. "It's a survival mechanism." A distant humming sound made them both freeze. Max peered cautiously around their cover and spotted hovering drones sweeping methodically across the wasteland, their scanning beams cutting through the darkness. "Tracker drones," Neria hissed. "They can detect body heat, respiration patterns, even specific DNA signatures." Can they track the baby's telepathy? No, but they don't need to. Neria pointed to a small device one drone was deploying. Pheromone detectors. They can identify Lumidian biochemical markers from kilometers away. Max cursed under his breath. How far to your transport? Less than a kilometer, but we'll never make it with those drones searching. Neria's scales shifted color slightly, a sign of stress that Max could somehow interpret through their mental connection. The baby stirred, sending them both an image, a maze of underground tunnels beneath the wasteland. Smuggler routes, Max realized, recognizing the pattern. How does she know about those? The Lumidians held in the Citadel share a collective consciousness, Neria explained. She's accessing memories from others who may have escaped this way before. Max nodded, impressed. There's an entrance about 200 meters east. Used it myself a few times. They move carefully, staying low and using debris for cover. The drones continued their systematic sweep, drawing ever closer. Just as they reached the concealed entrance, a rusted hatch, half buried in the dirt, a drone searchlight swept directly over them. Max froze, holding his breath. The baby, sensing the danger, went completely still against his chest. Neria pressed herself against him in the narrow shadow of a twisted metal beam, her body tense against his. The drone hovered for what felt like an eternity, its sensors whirring. Then inexplicably, it moved on. How? Max began. She shielded us, Neria whispered, her voice filled with awe. Mentally masked our presence somehow. The baby made a soft sound, and through their connection, Max felt her satisfaction mingled with exhaustion. Now that took a lot out of her, he said, concerned. Let's get underground. The tunnels were low and narrow, forcing them to crouch as they moved. Moisture dripped from the ceiling, and the air smelled of rust and decay. Max led the way, drawing on years of smuggling experience. These were built during the early colonial war, he explained, before the Valkyrie Empire consolidated power. Rebels used them to move supplies and people. My people weren't always conquerors, Neria said quietly. There was a time when we were explorers, scholars. The Empire corrupted that legacy. Max glanced at her, seeing the genuine regret in her expression. Through their mental link, he sensed her conflict, loyalty to her species warring with disgust at what they'd become. That's why you joined the Resistance? He asked. I saw what we were doing to other species. The experiments, the subjugation. Her amber eyes met his in the darkness. It wasn't right. They continued in silence for several minutes, the only sounds their footsteps and the occasional drip of water. The baby drifted into a light sleep, her mental presence becoming a gentle background hum in their shared consciousness. We're getting close, Neria said eventually. My transport is hidden in an abandoned mining outpost just beyond these tunnels. As they approached the exit, Max felt the baby suddenly jolt awake, sending a sharp warning through their connection. He grabbed Neria's arm, pulling her back. Wait, he whispered, something's wrong. They crept forward cautiously until they could see through the partially open exit hatch. Neria's transport, a sleek, single-pilot vessel, was visible in the clearing beyond. But surrounding it were Valkyrie soldiers, with Commander Drex himself pacing impatiently nearby. They found it, Neria said, her voice tight with despair. We're trapped. Max studied the scene, his smuggler's mind calculating angles and risks. There's a patrol vessel on the far side. Minimal security, engines still hot. You want to steal a Valkyrie military ship? Neria looked at him like he'd lost his mind. Unless you have a better idea? Max raised an eyebrow. The baby made a soft sound, and through their connection, Max felt her confidence in him, absolute and unwavering. It was both humbling and empowering. I can create a diversion, Neria offered. Draw them away from the patrol vessel. Too dangerous? Max said immediately, surprising himself with how protective he felt. We stay together. Their eyes met in the dim light of the tunnel, and the mental connection between them intensified, carrying currents of mutual concern, trust, and a deepening attraction that seemed to grow stronger with each passing hour. Together then, Neria agreed softly. Max felt her scales brush against his skin as she shifted closer in the narrow tunnel. The contact sent an electric charge through him that had nothing to do with danger and everything to do with the growing intimacy of their bond. We'll need to move fast, he said, his voice rougher than intended. Hit them hard, create confusion. And then? Neria asked, her amber eyes never leaving his. Then we fly like hell. The baby sent them both an image, the patrol vessel soaring through space, stars streaming past. Her confidence in their success was so complete that Max couldn't help but share it. She believes in us, Neria said, her scales flushing that deeper green that Max now recognized as her equivalent of a blush. Smart kid, Max replied with a half smile. Must take after her daddy. The joke broke the tension, and Neria's lips curved in a smile that transformed her features from merely striking to genuinely beautiful. Through their connection, Max felt her amusement, her admiration, and underneath it all, a desire that matched his own, powerful and increasingly difficult to ignore. When we get out of this, she said, her voice low and intimate, we should discuss this bond we're forming. It's, not typical between our species. Nothing about this day has been typical, Max replied, allowing himself to brush a strand of filament-like hair from her face. The simple touch sent another wave of awareness through their connection. The baby stirred between them, sending a gentle but insistent reminder of the danger outside. Right, Max said, refocusing. First we steal a ship, escape a planet, and outrun the most powerful military force in the sector. Then we can talk about whatever this is. Neria nodded, her expression shifting back to determination. Ready when you are, human. Max checked his blaster, adjusted the baby's sling to ensure she was secure, and took a deep breath. Let's show these Valkyrie what happens when they mess with a human's family. The stolen Valkyrie patrol vessel shuddered as Max pushed it beyond its intended specifications, its engines whining in protest as they broke atmosphere. Behind them, alarms wailed across the wasteland, and the first pursuit ships were already lifting off. They're scrambling the entire fleet, Neria said, her fingers dancing across the unfamiliar controls. Can you fly this thing? I can fly anything, Max replied, with a confident grin that came naturally in moments of danger. But we've got a problem. He pointed to a blinking red light on the console. Neria's expression darkened. Tracking beacon, she confirmed, standard on all military vessels. The baby, secured in a makeshift nest of emergency blankets in what had been the vessel's weapons locker, sent them both a mental image, a distant space station surrounded by a swirling nebula of purple and gold. Helios Outpost, Max recognized immediately. Smart kid. It's a trading hub in the Riven Nebula, just outside Valkyrie jurisdiction. We could lose the tracker there. And find allies, Neria added. The Resistance has contacts on Helios. Max plotted the course, then engaged the hyperdrive. Stars streaked past the view screen as the vessel lurched forward, momentarily outpacing their pursuers. We've bought some time, he said, checking the sensors, but Drex won't be far behind. Neria moved to check on the baby, who cooed softly as the Valkyrie woman stroked her blue skin. Through their mental connection, Max felt the infant's contentment despite the danger. Her absolute trust in both of them a humbling weight of responsibility. She needs a name, Max said suddenly. We can't just keep calling her the baby or kid. Neria looked up, surprise and warmth in her amber eyes. You're right. In Valkyrie tradition, foundlings are named for the circumstances of their discovery. So what? Trash heap, Max joked, moving to join them. Neria's scales flushed that deeper green he'd come to find endearing. I was thinking more like Astra. In the old Valkyrie tongue, it means found star. Astra, Max repeated, testing the name. The baby, Astra, gurgled happily, sending them both a wave of approval through their connection. I think she likes it. It suits her, Neria said softly. A bright light in darkness. Their eyes met over Astra's tiny form, and Max felt the now familiar surge of attraction through their bond. Without the immediate threat of capture, he became acutely aware of how close they were in the small cockpit, of Neria's exotic beauty, and the surprising softness of her scales when they brushed against his skin. A warning beep from the console broke the moment. Max reluctantly turned back to the controls. Proximity alert, he said, checking the readings. We've reached the nebula, but we've got company. Valkyrie cruiser closing fast. Drex, Neria confirmed grimly. That's his personal vessel. He's tracking us himself. Max studied the sensor readings, a plan forming. The nebula will interfere with their sensors. If we can reach Helios outpost, we can lose the tracker and disappear into the station population. He guided the patrol vessel into the swirling clouds of the Riven Nebula, the view outside transforming into a spectacular display of purple and gold cosmic dust. The ship's sensors immediately began to falter, readings becoming erratic. "If our sensors are struggling, so are theirs," Max said with satisfaction. "But I know this nebula. Smuggler's paradise, if you know the safe routes." Neria watched him with undisguised admiration as he navigated the treacherous cosmic storm, with confidence making adjustments that kept them just ahead of the pursuing cruiser. "Most Valkyrie believe humans are technologically inferior," she admitted. "Clearly they've never seen one fly." "We're adaptable," Max replied with a wink. "It's our superpower." Through their mental link, he felt her curiosity about humans, her growing respect for his species, and underneath it all, that simmering attraction that seemed to intensify with each passing hour. Astra made a soft sound, and they both felt her projecting an image of the three of them together, safe and happy. The simple purity of her desire touched something deep in Max's heart. "We'll make it," he promised her. "All of us." The nebula thinned, and revealing the sprawling structure of Helios Outpost, a massive space station built into an ancient asteroid, its docking arms extending like metal tentacles into the surrounding space. Hundreds of ships of various designs clustered around it, a testament to its status as a major trading hub. "There," Neria pointed to a maintenance dock on the station's underside. "Less security, no questions asked." Max guided their vessel toward it, keeping the bulk of the station between them and Drex's approaching cruiser. As they docked, he quickly located the tracking beacon, a small device embedded in the ship's communications array, and disabled it. "That won't fool them for long," he warned as they gathered their meager supplies. "We need to find your resistance contacts quickly." The interior of Helios Outpost was a chaotic blend of species, cultures, and commerce. Merchants hawked exotic goods from 100 worlds. Mercenaries lounged in shadowy corners, and the air was thick with the mingled scents of alien foods and industrial lubricants. Max kept Astra secure against his chest, her tiny form hidden beneath his jacket. Neria walked close beside him. Her scales shifted to a more muted green that would attract less attention among the station's diverse population. "The contact point is in the lower markets," she murmured, "a shop called Stellar Oddities." They wound their way through crowded corridors, always alert for Valkyrie patrols. Max noticed Neria's growing tension as they descended into the station's lower levels. "What aren't you telling me?" he asked quietly. She hesitated, then sighed. "The resistance contact, it's my brother, Krell. We haven't spoken in years. He left the Empire before I did, was branded a traitor. Will he help us?" "I don't know," she admitted, "but he hates the Empire more than anyone I know. If anyone will risk helping a rogue Valkyrie officer, a human smuggler, and a stolen Lumidian child, it's him." They found Stellar Oddities tucked between a weapons shop and a questionable medical clinic. The small store was crammed with artifacts from across the galaxy, some obviously illegal, others merely strange. A male Valkyrie with midnight blue scales looked up as they entered, his expression shifting from boredom to shock as he recognized Neria. "Sister," he said flatly, "you've either gone completely mad or you're in serious trouble." "Both," Neria replied with a grim smile. "Hello, Krell." Before they could explain further, the station's public address system crackled to life, announcing the arrival of an Imperial Valkyrie cruiser and implementing mandatory security protocols. "Drex," Max and Neria said simultaneously. Krell's eyes narrowed. "Commander Drex is hunting you personally? What in the void have you done?" Max carefully opened his jacket, revealing Astra's blue face. The baby blinked up at Krell with curious eyes. "We've become parents," Max said simply. "You've lost your minds," Krell hissed, quickly locking the shop's front door and activating privacy screens. "A Nexus Lumidian? Do you have any idea?" "We know exactly what she is," Neria interrupted, "and what the Empire was doing to her kind." Max produced the data crystal, which Krell examined with widening eyes. "This is comprehensive. Project Starseed in its entirety. Enough to expose the Empire's crimes to the galactic community," Max confirmed. "If we can get it to the right people..." Krell's expression hardened. Drex has locked down the station. No ships are departing without Imperial inspection. A station-wide announcement confirmed his words, ordering all civilians to submit to identity verification. Astra whimpered softly, sensing their anxiety through their mental connection. "It's okay, little star," Max soothed, gently stroking her blue cheek. She calmed immediately at his touch, her trust in him unwavering. "There's another option," Krell said after a moment's thought. "The station's central communications array. It can broadcast across all major galactic channels simultaneously. If you uploaded this data, every species in the sector would see what the Valkyrie have been doing," Neria finished, her amber eyes brightening. "The Empire couldn't suppress it." "But we'd need to reach the command level," Max pointed out, "past whatever security Drex has established." Krell moved to a hidden panel in the shop's wall, revealing an impressive collection of weapons and equipment. "The Resistance has been preparing for something like this. Take what you need." As they armed themselves, the shop security system beeped a warning. Krell checked the monitor and cursed. "Valkyrie patrols, 2 corridors away and closing. They're conducting a systematic search." Max exchanged a look with Neria, their mental connection humming with shared resolve. "We need a distraction." "I'll lead them away," Krell offered. "Give you time to reach the central hub." Neria grabbed her brother's arm. "Krell, it's time I did something that matters, sister." He gave her a rare smile. "Besides, they've been trying to catch me for years." After Krell departed, Max and Neria used the shop's back exit to access the station's maintenance tunnels. They moved quickly through the narrow passages, guided by Krell's hastily downloaded station schematics. "Your brother's quite the rebel," Max remarked as they climbed a service ladder. "It runs in the family, apparently," Neria replied with a wry smile. They emerged on a mid-level concourse, momentarily blending with the crowd of anxious station residents. Astra remained quiet in her sling, her mental presence alert but calm. "Command level is 2 more sections up," Neria whispered, checking the schematic. "Heavy security at all access points." Before Max could respond, a commotion erupted across the concourse. Commander Drex himself had arrived, flanked by a squad of elite guards. His blood-red scales seemed to glow under the station lights as his cold gaze swept the crowd. "He's searching for us personally," Neria breathed, pressing closer to Max. "Time for Plan B," Max decided, pulling her into a shadowed alcove. "We need to split up." "What? No dash dash." "Listen," he said urgently. "I'll create a diversion. Draw Drex away. You take Astra and the crystal to the command level." Neria's scales darkened with emotion. "He'll kill you." "Not if I can help it," Max replied with a confidence he didn't entirely feel. "But Astra needs to get to safety, and that data needs to be broadcast." Through their mental link, he felt her fear for him, her reluctance to separate, and something deeper, stronger, that made his heart race despite the danger. "Max," she whispered, her amber eyes intense. "Last night, in that maintenance closet when we thought we might not make it, what happened between us was incredible," he finished softly, remembering the hours they'd spent exploring each other's bodies while Astra slept nearby, discovering the surprising compatibility between their species, the unexpected tenderness they'd found in each other's arms. "I need you to know," Neria continued, her voice thick with emotion, "humans aren't the only ones who can form permanent bonds." Max understood what she was saying, that for her their connection wasn't casual or temporary. It mirrored what he'd been feeling himself, this rapid, intense bond that seemed to grow stronger with each passing hour. "Then I definitely need to survive this," he said with a crooked smile, brushing his fingers against her scaled cheek. "We have a lot more exploring to do." Astra made a soft sound, and they both felt her approval through their mental connection, as if she'd been orchestrating their union all along. "Take care of our girl," Max said, gently transferring Astra to Neria's arms. I'll meet you at the command level." Before he could move, Neria pulled him into a fierce kiss that sent electricity through their bond. "You better," she whispered against his lips. Max watched them disappear into the crowd before stepping into the open, deliberately catching Drex's attention. The commander's eyes narrowed in recognition. "The human!" Drex snarled, pointing. "Seize him!" Max took off running, leading the pursuit away from Nerea and Astra's path. He weaved through startled civilians, using his knowledge of station layouts to stay just ahead of his pursuers. Eventually, he found himself cornered in a cargo bay. Drex approached alone, his guards forming a perimeter to prevent escape. "Where is the Lumidian child?" Drex demanded, his scaled hand resting on his weapon. "Safe from you," Max replied, standing his ground. "It's over, Drex. The data about Project Starseed is about to be broadcast across the entire sector." Drex's expression didn't change. "No one will believe it. The Empire controls the narrative." "Maybe they did," Max countered, "before you made the mistake of chasing us here. Do you know what this station is? It's neutral territory. Representatives from a dozen species are watching right now." He gestured to the observation windows above, where curious faces of various alien species were indeed gathering, drawn by the commotion. "Humans have a saying," Max continued, stalling for time. "The truth will out. Your empire built its power on lies and fear, but that only works when people don't know what you're really doing." For the first time, uncertainty flickered across Drex's features. "You're just one human. What can you possibly—" He was interrupted by the station's communication system, crackling to life. Nerea's voice echoed throughout the facility. "Attention all species. The Valkyrie Empire has been conducting illegal experiments on telepathic children. The evidence is now being transmitted on all frequencies. I repeat, the evidence is being transmitted now." Screens throughout the station, including those in the cargo bay, suddenly displayed images from the data crystal. Lumidian children in containment units, genetic modification protocols, training regimens designed to weaponize their abilities. The watching aliens reacted with visible horror and outrage. Several immediately activated their own communication devices, spreading the news further. Drex's face contorted with rage. "You've doomed yourself, human. The Empire will never stop hunting you now." "Maybe," Max agreed, "but they'll be too busy defending themselves against the rest of the galaxy first." Security forces from the station itself began to enter the cargo bay. Not Valkyrie, but representatives of the station's neutral administration. Their weapons were trained not on Max, but on Drex and his guards. "Commander Drex," the lead officer announced, "by authority of the Galactic Trade Commission, you are detained pending investigation of these allegations." Max felt a familiar mental touch, Astra reaching for him. Through their connection, he sensed her and Nerea approaching, accompanied by station security. When they entered the cargo bay, Max felt his heart lighten at the sight of them safe. Astra reached for him immediately, her tiny blue arms extended. As Nerea transferred her to his embrace, their hands touched, sending a spark of warmth through their bond. "Daddy," Astra's mental voice came through clearly now. No translator needed. "We did it." "Yeah, little star," Max replied, holding her close. "We did." 6 months later, the small house overlooking the ocean on Nova Terra Colony wasn't much, but it was theirs. Max stood on the porch, watching the twin moons rise over the water, while Astra slept peacefully in her crib inside. The aftermath of the Helios Outpost broadcast had been more far-reaching than any of them could have imagined. The Valkyrie Empire faced sanctions from a united galactic community, Project Starseed was dismantled, and surviving Lumidian children were freed from captivity. Max, Nerea, and Astra had been granted asylum on this human colony world, along with protected status as key witnesses against the Empire. Krell had joined them after narrowly escaping Helios, establishing a new resistance cell dedicated to reforming Valkyrie society from within. Warm arms encircled him from behind, Nerea, her scales glowing softly in the moonlight. "She's finally asleep," she murmured against his shoulder. "Her vocabulary is expanding daily. Soon she'll be speaking aloud, not just telepathically." "She's amazing," Max agreed, turning to face the woman who had become his partner in every sense, just like her mother. Nerea's scales flushed that deeper green he loved so much. Their relationship had only deepened in the months since their escape, their mental bond strengthening alongside their physical and emotional connection. "I received word from the Lumidian representatives today," she said. "They've confirmed what we suspected. Nexus Lumidians like Astra instinctively seek compatible minds for bonding. They're drawn to those who will protect them, nurture them. She chose well. Max said softly, pulling Neria closer. We both did. As they stood together under the alien stars, Max reflected on how completely his life had changed since that day in the wasteland. From a solitary smuggler to a father and partner, from running contraband to helping reshape galactic politics. All because he'd stopped to investigate a tiny voice calling Daddy. Through their open connection, he felt Astra's peaceful dreams and Neria's contentment mingling with his own happiness. 3 different species united by bonds stronger than blood, stronger than the Empire, stronger than anything the galaxy could throw at them. It was, Max thought with satisfaction, one hell of a family, and he wouldn't trade it for all the credits in the universe.